Hey everybody, Dave here. Today I'm going to show you 6 different ways to recenter the view in Blue Prism Process Studio and Object Studio. There are a couple different reasons that you might get lost. One might be that you've been debugging, but then you went clicking around and now you forgot what stage you left off on. And also you might have just scrolled around too much, or maybe you lifted some stages and moved them and it caused the canvas to just shoot off to the left or shoot off to the right. In newer versions of Blue Prism, they mostly solve that problem. So let's look at the 6 different ways that I have found to solve those problems. The first 2 methods are going to deal with debugging, and then the other 4 methods are not going to deal with debugging at all. So the first method is to use focus debug stage. In the case that you are debugging and you're stepping or you're running or whatever, and at some point you find yourself clicked over to a totally different page from wherever your debug stage was. This is your debug stage, the one that's yellow. So you're on a totally different page. You don't know what page it is. You can see it says paused up here, but you don't know where you left off. The simple way to solve this is just to go up to debug in the menu and then go down to focus debug stage and click that, and it'll always bring you right back to that stage. You can be on the same page, scroll down like this, debug, focus debug stage, or you can be on a totally different page, debug, focus debug stage, and it'll always bring you back there. That's the simplest and easiest way to solve the problem, and I wanted to bring that up first. The second method deals with stepping, so you should pretty much just use debug stage, but I wanted to point out, since it technically does work, that you can just step. So if I knew that, like, let's say I remembered that I was on a note stage, and stepping over that note stage is not going to hurt anything. Well, I can hit F11 on my keyboard, or even F10, or I can go up and do debug step, or there's a button over here that I can do step. So I'm going to click this, and you'll see that it stepped and actually ran that stage. Now it was a note stage, so it didn't do anything, but it did actually step through that. It ran whatever would have been here, and then it moved to the next stage. So if that's not going to harm anything, then you can always do that. You don't have to go debug, focus debug stage to come back to your stage before you actually run it. You can let's just go ahead and set next stage back here. I'll click to another page, and I can just hit F11 if I'm confident that that's not going to cause a problem, and it'll bring me right back here. So method 1 and method 2 kind of are very similar, except that focus debug stage won't actually run the stage that you're on, whereas hitting F11 or hitting step or whatever is obviously going to run that stage. But both of them will bring you back to the place that you were at, whatever you had focused for debugging. Now for methods 3, 4, 5, and 6, this has nothing to do with whether or not you're debugging. So you could be debugging at the moment, or you might not be. It doesn't make a difference. I'm currently on Blue Prism 7.3.1. And as of, I think, something like Blue Prism 7.3, they fixed the problem where if you lifted a bunch of stages, say I select all of these and I pick them up, in earlier versions of Blue Prism, if you moved this to where it touched and it went past the edge of the screen, the edge of the canvas like this, it would throw the view really far up, kind of like it's doing right now, except this is going really, really slow. What it used to do is it would throw your view way, way up here real quick. And so you could actually pretty often find yourself way off from where you meant to be. Now, the easiest way to solve that initially is just to undo. But there's actually a tool that I didn't know for years even existed in Blue Prism. So let's just say for a second that I somehow found myself way off to the side like this. Okay. These other methods, 3, 4, 5, and 6, all will help you to solve this problem. Okay. The first one is going to be method 3, which is wide zoom pan tool. If you find yourself way off to the side here like this, I can actually see a little bit of stages, but let's pretend like we can't see this off to the side. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to click this little arrow. What this is showing me is the entire canvas area. And you can see that all of my stages are in this area. There's a whole bunch of blank space around the edges. What I can do is go and hover over this red box and hold left click, and then I can move this so that it moves me around on the canvas. And this is actually super performant. Like, it's working really well. And so I can just find wherever I want to be, and then I can click out, and now I'm back. So again, I can be like way off over here. I can click the drop down, and then I find that red box, hold left click, move it around to wherever I want to be, and then let go, and then click out, and now I'm back to where I want to be. That was the wide zoom pan tool. The fourth method to recenter your view that doesn't deal with debugging is if you wanted to fix the problem with multiple pages. Let's say that the wide zoom pan tool is not good enough for this situation. It's not just one page that you want to fix. Instead, you have a whole bunch of pages. So I'm going to click to a number of different pages, and you'll see that some of them aren't like this, but a whole bunch of them are not, at least not on the start stage, and some of them you can't see any stages at all. So yeah, I could go to each individual page and use the pan tool to move up or whatever. But instead, what I'm going to do is search for start, because I know that every page has a start stage. You could also do the same thing with the word end, but I'm going to search for the word start, and every page that contains that word, it'll jump to that place, and it's actually going to set the view in that spot as well. So I'm going to hit enter. You can also hit the this little button over here for find next. Actually, that's what I'll do. So I'm going to go ahead and click this over and over and over again, and what it's doing is jumping to the start stage on a bunch of pages. You can see that it's also selecting more than just the start stage, right? It's not limited to just that kind of stage based upon how I'm searching for it right now. But it worked pretty well. Now, as you can see, some of these have the word start in them quite a few times, so maybe I should use the word end. But that took me like, what, maybe 20 seconds or something. And now I can go back to all those same pages, and you'll see as I click through them, oh man, that just feels so much better. Okay, that one's a little weird, but a lot of them go right up to the top where the start stage was, and they look so much better if I were to just click through here rather than having blank spaces. So that can happen from time to time. It could just be where somebody left off when they were last looking at the process and they saved it. But this is a fair method to kind of reset the view. It's not perfect, but it's an option. The fifth method to recenter a view in Process Studio is similar to the one before where we inputted a search term and searched it here, but instead of searching right here and clicking this button, I'm going to hit find text, which does not appear to be a button, but it is. And it's going to bring up this advanced find window. And what I'm going to do is search for start again, just as an example. And I can do find next like this, and it will search for all of the start stages in the entire process. And what I can do is something similar to what we did in the previous method. I can go and just double click right here, and it will bring me to that page. Let me just make this easier to see over here. Make that a little smaller. And I'm just going to go and double click on these one at a time. And you can see what it's doing is bringing the view directly to where I want to be. So this method is not really what I'd necessarily recommend for this use case. I'm just showing you that it would technically work, and you can go straight to the ones that say the name start like this, and you could skip the ones that don't say that if you were just trying to reset the view on a bunch of pages. It's just something that you could do. I really don't think this is a great method, but it does technically work. And the last method I want to show you is something that I actually did most of the time because I didn't know about the wide zoom pan tool, which I think is probably the best way to find your place if you're totally lost here. It's the zoom out and zoom in technique. I don't know what else to call it. I would hold shift and mouse wheel, right? You could also do the zoom up here. I can change this to 25%. It'll kind of expand our view out to be way out here, and then I can scroll around like this. So, okay, so you're way out here, and now you just go down to 50%. Okay, now we're zoomed in the right area. I'm going to keep going down to 100%, and now we're back. This is, I think, a fair way to do it, and I actually constantly do this. I'll hold shift and mouse wheel up and down to find where I'm at, and I'm going to try to make myself start using the wide zoom pan tool though, because that is really nice and handy. So that was the 6 methods or 6 ways to recenter your view in Process Studio. Remember, the first 2 are specifically for when you're debugging, when you use the debug, focus debug stage like that. Also note that it's not going to do anything if you're not debugging. Like I actually just clicked it. It didn't do anything, but I have to set next stage or do something like that. And then I can do debug and focus debug stage. However, the second one will work anytime. So I don't have to be debugging. I can just hit F11 and it's going to start from wherever the original main page start is. So that technically will work anytime. And then I just wanted to reiterate that probably the best 2 ways to do this at all is using focus debug stage if you're in debug mode, and use the wide zoom pan tool if you are not in debug mode and you're just trying to find a place on the page. The other methods can help you if you need them, but I think those are the 2 best methods. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.